Despite the current uncertainty in the APC's participation in the governorship elections in Zanfara State, the state governor, Abdulaziz Yari, is optimistic that President Buhari will win votes in the state during the February 16th presidential polls. The governor, who spoke with State House correspondents in Abuja, insists that the APC in the state conducted their primaries as requested by law and criticized the National Secretariat of the party and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for an unfair treatment. On Friday, two courts handed down conflicting rulings on whether INEC can accept candidates presented by the All Progressives Congress for the governorship elections in Zanfara State. The United Nations has made an urgent appeal to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and security operatives to ensure that internally displaced persons in Benue State are allowed to vote no matter where they now live. The Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General to West Africa, Mr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, who delivered the message in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, says the hallmark of the 2019 elections will be to make necessary plans for all registered voters to cast their votes peacefully.
Is our watchword for this.
Governor Samuel Otom and the United Nations Special Representative to West Africa, Mr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, attending a high-level dialogue forum of peaceful election in Benue State.
Population living with disability.
Civil society organizations, security agencies, and traditional rulers raised pertinent issues regarding non-violent elections. But the state governor presents some hard facts that need security reassurance.
We were told that this election in Benue State will be inconclusive. That was why the MC was putting the INEC commissioner on the spot. And one of the strategies that they intended to do, or they intend to do, is to bring in Henslow and their militia groups. And as I talk to you today, these threats have become a reality.
I'm happy the international community should.
The Pt.3, who is the chairman of the Benue State Council of Chiefs, is worried about the state of people displaced by herdsmen with regards to their voting right. As INEC says, arrangements have been made to that effect.
We have cried loud. There has been no help. We say IDP should go back to their homes. They have no homes. A few that have ventured have been killed. The international community is listening because this is in the public view. When shall we have help?
Because once you can identify safer voting points for them, they will classify them as IDPs, move the voting points to those locations, agreed and signed by community leaders. That we just did that in Nagatu last week. We engaged the community leaders and I asked them to sign off for me next week so that I can move voting points to those locations that will be more accessible and more safer for the people.
Considering the alarm raised by the governor and the likely disenfranchisement of those living in IDP camps, the UN Secretary General's representative sounds a note of caution.
In the short term, the next 3 weeks, the task ahead is conducting peaceful, credible elections. Elections in which all Benuans can participate in.
The test before INEC and the security agencies is proving the allegation raised by the governor wrong by way of ensuring that no registered voter is disenfranchised and security is well guaranteed.
Peaceful election.
And talking about internally displaced persons, some of them living in Gamburu Ngala local government area of Borno State are calling on the federal government and humanitarian institutions to step up their response to address the realities on the ground. The displaced persons camp in the local government headquarters in Ngala is the biggest in northeast Nigeria, accommodating people from 186 communities across 4 local governments and the Lake Chad area. The international school camp, which was established in January 2016 with 600 people, has now grown to accommodate 14,000 households.
Gamburu Ngala is located in eastern Borno State on the border with the Republic of Cameroon and south of the Lake Chad. The people recently witnessed the arrival of a small group of men, women and children who escaped the recent attack in Ran, spending several days on foot through Cameroon to arrive in Ngala for refuge.
I came through Cameroon. I didn't go far. We slept by the riverside. In the morning, the soldiers asked us to go back, but my mother, who lives in Ran, had warned me not to ever return, that if I make it out of the town, I should come here and stay with my relatives. They received us here, and we were cleared by the soldiers who asked us questions and took our pictures. Then they brought us here.
According to a community leader, the affected population, who are mostly farmers, are not allowed to practice their trade beyond 2 kilometers from Ngala town for fear of danger.
We thank God we are living in the camp and inside the town, but no one dares go 2 kilometers or beyond outside the town without getting any complaint. We need more security personnel to enable us do our farming and livestock outside the town so that WFP and others will be relieved.
The Borno State Emergency Management Agency commends humanitarian organizations for their support, but it doesn't seem to be enough.
WFP is one of our contributors when it comes to food security. They are the ones giving us food, giving the IDPs food on monthly basis, because they intervene once in a month. We had UNHCR that are supporting the new arrivals and those that have their shelters have faded in the camps. Where there are gaps, we try to come up with the gaps and now call on the partners and sectors to see how we intervene into those areas.
Access to healthcare services remain insufficient as sick persons are taken across the border to Cameroon for emergency procedures. While activities are slowly picking up in Ngala town, more would still need to be done to make communities safer for people to live their normal lives again.
For over a century, stolen Benin artifacts continue to adorn major museums outside the shores of Nigeria and raking in huge sums of money for the countries where these museums are domiciled. These works of art generate a lot of interest for tourists, art lovers and the academia as they show evidence of a commendable intellectual property taken away by the British colonial power. In this next report, our correspondent Osaze Obaze takes a look at the significance of the stolen artworks to Nigeria's history, as well as efforts being made to recover them.
Egon bronze casters at work in their workshop and studio in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Theirs is an art that has endured for centuries, even after the Benin massacre in the 19th century. Historians insist that the invasion of Benin Kingdom in 1897 was for the most part a punitive expedition of the British Empire against that powerful African civilization, which was extremely gifted in both material and non-material culture with an advanced tradition and artworks which was second to none.
The most important thing was that the British wanted control. Benin was a clog in their will to dominate what is today southern Nigeria. Because at the time, Benin controlled all the area between Ouidah at the boundary between Benin Republic and Togo, all the way down to Boma, near Gabon, in the Central African area. But Benin had absolute control over the coast of what is now Nigeria. That is from Lagos, that's Kuramo waters, to the markets of Bonny.
The task, apparently now, is to retrieve the stolen artworks, a task which custodians of the nation's history say goes beyond merely getting aesthetic images back. Historical documents and intellectual property of the Benin people are involved.
The works that were removed from Benin were both religious and non-religious objects, but they were actually visual mnemonics of our long history, spanning over 1,500 years.
Discussions on how these objects could come back. It led to the formation of the Benin Dialogue Group. We've since arrived at a proposal
which is that the objects could come in form of rotational loans and for exhibition.
Those in doubt as to what all this means to the Benin people will probably have to listen to the Obadol Agmoye of Benin Kingdom.
These artifacts, they need to be given back to us. On the 20th of October 2016, when His Royal Majesty Oba II was coronated, he made a very distinct statement that in his time, in his period, all these works will be repatriated, and the move has started.
To many people anxious to have these artworks back, the stealing of the Benin artifacts 122 years ago was indeed a case of stunting the growth of one of Africa's most prosperous empires. Osaze Obaze Channels Television News.
Analysts are applauding Executive Order 7, which is just signed by the President. Kayode will be telling us why on Business News.
Well, that's right, Melinda. You're welcome to Business News. The Executive Order number 7, which was signed on Friday by President Muhammadu Buhari, has received some commendations from analysts who applaud the initiative that will allow increased private sector participation in infrastructure funding and development in Nigeria. The Managing Director of AfriInvest Securities, Mr. Ayodeji Ebo, says on his Twitter account that the new road infrastructure and refurbishment investment tax credit scheme is a laudable initiative that should bridge the infrastructure gap in Nigeria. Mr. Ebo believes that the impact of the executive order could be felt within a year due to availability of funds. The new order will see companies investing in some 19 eligible road projects totaling 794 kilometers across 11 states, with the first phase involving 6 private companies. This weekend's heated political environment will be in sharp focus for Nigeria's financial markets next week, looking to wrap up the first month of the new year with some gains. Analysts fear that the 1.36% rally in the stock market this week, which erases year-to-date losses, may be reversed on the news of the suspension and replacement of the embattled Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, on Friday by President Buhari. The fixed income market also rallied during the week with positive outlook for next week's 150 billion naira bond flotation by the Debt Management Office. Analysts are now expressing worries that the inflows of funds from foreign portfolio investors may be dampened by the renewed concerns just 3 weeks to the general elections. More business stories now. The NASD OTC Securities Exchange closed 2018 higher by 17% on the consolidation of interest from long-term investors and demands from private equity players. With the record performance, 2019 offers even more opportunities as the management of the OTC, led by the Chief Executive, Mr. Bola Ajomale, tells us about the plans to integrate mutual funds and exchange-traded products in the market this year.
Throughout last year, we saw a lot of activity. We ended the year at a 17% increase in our index. Part of what we're doing this year is actually harnessing that by creating some exchange-traded funds that can be traded and creating some more indexes. We're speaking with Standard & Poor's and some other data vendors who would actually put indexes together. So we expect that some indexes will come out of NASD this year that would allow people to actually consolidate on their gains and even make more gains. I think right now a lot of investors are a bit shy of taking investment decisions directly on their own, and as a result, they'd want to get into investment schemes, collective investment schemes. We've seen a lot of mutual funds. In fact, some of them are applying for listing at the moment, more than NASD, and we expect that quite a few more of them will come in and will grow this year.
In other news, the federal, states and local governments have shared 649.19 billion naira revenue for the month of December 2018. The Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Ahmed Idris, made this known at the conclusion of the Federal Account Allocation Committee meeting in Abuja. He says the figure was lower by 163.57 billion naira compared to the 812.76 billion naira shared in November 2018 due to the drop in oil revenue. A breakdown of the disbursements shows that the federal government received 255.2 billion naira. 129.44 billion naira was allocated to states. Local governments got 99.7 billion naira, while 45.52 billion naira, which represents 13% of the mineral revenue, was shared to oil-producing states. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I am Kayode Okikiolu. The news at 10 continues with Melinda.
Many thanks, Kayode. Still ahead on the news at 10. Japan's Naomi Osaka beats Czech Petra Kvitova in a thrilling Australian Open final to win back-to-back Grand Slams and become the new world number